Thursday, 1st of June 2021. Coming to you live from Lagos, Nigeria. This is Breakfast Central.
Habari Yahasubuhi. Welcome to the month of June, and what a delight to wake up with smiles as you watch your colorful breakfast show from the continent of Africa. We are News Central. This is Breakfast Central. I am Oluchi Inobong.
And I am Olisa Chukuma. Good morning, Africa and indeed the world. Reporting for you to today's Breakfast Central. Let's start the show with a look at the headlines. Where Kenyans celebrate Banaraka Day today, we'll tell you all about it.
And in Nigeria, we'll be talking about the outcome of sit-at-home order in southeastern parts of Nigeria.
The effects of tobacco.
In the world of business, Kenya debt rises.
We'll also bring you the latest trends across Africa with Trend Wave.
Right here on Breakfast Central.
Kuna kallon News Central TV.
You're still on Breakfast Central on News Central TV. Now, Banaraka Day is celebrated as a national holiday in Kenya on June 1st. Now, if this particular day, which is June 1st, falls on a Sunday, the following day, being a Monday, will be a holiday.
Now, Banaraka is the Swahili word for power, and Banaraka Day is a public holiday that commemorates the day that Kenya took power when it attained internal self-rule back in 1963. To tell us more about this, we're joined by our News Central's East African correspondent, Abdinor Arden. Abdin, good morning to you.
Good morning, Olisa and Oluchi.
Good morning, Abdinor. All right, now, tell us more about Banaraka Day. What is it all about, and what makes it so important?
This year we are marking the 58th anniversary of the Banaraka Day celebrations, which is a day when Kenya took self-rule from the British colonialists. It is a commemoration that is a public holiday marked across the country. And for this year's event, it's for the first time happening in the lakeside region of the country in a city called Kisumu.
All right.
Okay. Now, looking at it, Abdinor, I'm looking at this celebration. I know that the country has been preparing, especially Kisumu Dala, looking at the region. This is the first time Kisumu Dala is having a national event such as this, and there's been an uplift of the state. Tell us a little more in terms of preparation, especially in the midst of COVID-19.
It's the first time these celebrations are being marked in this pandemic. The previous year, it wasn't celebrated in a public event. But this year, in a 30,000 seater capacity stadium, only 3,000 invited guests have been allowed inside. The rest of the Kenyans will be following the events or the proceedings from their television sets at home or in different places. This is also part of measures to contain the spread of the pandemic, because Kisumu had also reported a spike in the cases, and the president has been in that region for the last 2 days, launching various development projects. Therefore, it has been a hive of activities in that Kisumu Dala, as you said, Oluchi.
All right, so it looks like it's already kicked off, because we can tell it's about 10:06 a.m. Out there in Kenya, which means people should be out and about, starting those who are invited, and hopefully we'll get to see Uhuru Kenyatta and the likes of perhaps Raila Odinga and other political bigwigs there. So, well, what are Kenyans talking about this morning as they're celebrating Banaraka Day?
Before we speak about Kenyans, it's also good to mention that Burundian President Evariste Ndayishimiye, or General Neva, is a state guest. I mean, it's a guest for this year's event in Kisumu, and he arrived where he was also awarded or rewarded 50 heifers, and it was a gift from the president. Kenyans are really expecting the president to speak about issues concerning the economy, what next after the pandemic, or what are the government measures as part of tackling the ongoing pandemic, as well as the political future of the country. We very well know that there have been plans for the Building Bridges Initiative, the BBI, where the reggae was stopped a few weeks back by the High Court. But now we expect the president to address various matters, economic, on the politics, as well as social matters on the country.
All right. Thank you very much, Abdina Ardina, East Africa correspondent. And happy Madaraka Day to you. Enjoy the rest of it, Abdin.
Asante sana, coming a few days before Democracy Day in Nigeria.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. All right, more top stories right here on News Central.
Yes, you're welcome back to Breakfast Central. Now, still on the top stories we have for you today. Nigeria, just yesterday, the southeastern part of Nigeria witnessed an unusual occurrence, the sit-at-home order by IPOB. Now, recall that the indigenous people of Biafra, that is IPOB, had last week issued its sit-at-home order in the southeast with the threat to deal with those who might violate it.
Well, this is celebrating the fallen heroes. That's what they're saying, IPOB, of the region during the Nigerian Civil War of 1967 to 1970. And what and how did the day pan out? And what is it? How is it all going down in the east yesterday of Nigeria? That's what we're going to be finding out. Let's bring on journalist and who's also based in Enugu State, which is the eastern part of Nigeria, Jude Thomas Dawan, and public affairs analyst who's regular on Breakfast, Chukwuma Okenwa. Good morning, gentlemen. All right, Chukwuma, good morning to you. Welcome back to Breakfast Central.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning, Chukwuma. All right, so let's start with the very basic. Let's start with you. Now, how did this sit-at-home order pan out yesterday? What were your observations?
I would say it was indeed massive. The level of compliance was very great. But of course, three factors made it so. First is there were those that were scared because of the heavy security presence. And we can recall that the IGP's recent visit in Enugu, where he ordered his men to shoot at sight, and that they are going to deal ruthlessly with the IPOB members. So many people envisage there could be possible clashes between the security forces and the IPOB faithfuls. And that, of course, inspired people or advised people to stay away from the street and from their regular work.
All right.
True is also that there was this concern that maybe if you're a business owner, because businesses like certainly complied, of course, you don't run business in the vacuum, you have your staff, you are concerned of their safety. And the third group of persons that, the third reason why many people complied is we are talking about a day to remember the fallen heroes. The Biafran heroes, over 3 million lives that were lost during the Nigerian Biafran War. It's massive. It's something that is not out of place. If the nation should recognize that a day like this could be set aside where we can actually reflect on one aspect of history that have shaped the current day of Nigeria. Unfortunately, some of the things that we agitated for, and from 1967, some of the things that led to the war are still very much visible in today's Nigeria, and it is sad to note.
All right, we are now joined by Jude Thomas Dawan, who's a journalist also based in Enugu. Jude, good morning. Welcome to Breakfast Central.
Thank you so much. It's great. Thank you for having me as well.
All right, Jude, what were the observations about yesterday's sit-at-home order in many states in southeastern Nigeria?
The truth is everybody stayed at home. The people stayed at home because you didn't even know what to expect. At some point, the streets were really clear. We couldn't go out because it wasn't just the stay at home alone. There was also the fear of whether or not the security agencies are going to see you walking on the streets and mistake you for, whether the unknown gunman or the, IPO. So it was a very difficult one for us because we didn't really know how to navigate the streets yesterday, and the work was also pretty difficult. You're going out and you don't know the answers. If anybody stops you, you're not just dealing with the people saying stay at home alone. You're also dealing with the security agencies as well.
All right, Chukuma, and we also have Jude Thomas, because we really, for those of us who are not in the Southeast, and even for people watching across Africa, this sit-at-home order was, declared by IPOB. It wasn't declared by the federal government, in those eastern states. Now, are we saying that, IPOB enforced the compliance, or the security agencies enforced the compliance? Because we're seeing empty streets all around the east. So who enforced the compliance, basically? Because it's not a federal law, so to speak, though many might say it does have its validation. So who really enforced this?
Well, I think both platforms, whether you're talking about IPOB or the security agency, they are both, they played significant roles, because, the whole thing started gathering cloud when, like, for any time there's going to be like a day of remembrance like this, you see like a lot more of troops of security agencies deployed to the Southeast. We've seen in time past, like some operations, like Operation Python Dance, you understand, Operation Crocodile Smiles, particularly targeted to this season. So, yes, though the government has not validated that it ought to be a public holiday, but for the government also to respond along that line also gives it some level of capacity. It gives it some level of concern. It shows that, yes, even though the government is not endorsing this, all the same, they also know that a day like this is very significant. So the government actually, through wrong policies, made this whole thing, to become really very, very massive and significant. But then another aspect to the whole thing is, 3 years back, when like some renowned elites from the southeastern part of the country began to see that if this whole thing is not properly checked, it could translate to another form of war. And then on such day, like usually it was such day, like the likes of OBS, the likes of Kingsley Mohalo, started trending the hashtag Ozemen, right? Okay. That is because it's obvious that many young people of this generation do not know what war looks like. So when you have the IPOB leader speaking about war, you take it by force, you do all of that, you use aggression. Many people, all they just see is the fancy of, trying to like channel their youthful exuberances, but we had like some of our elders begin to weigh in on such day and say, yes, Ozemen, but all the same, we are going to dedicate such a day to remember our fallen heroes. And I think that is not out of place.
All right, Jude Thomas, for you, who basically enforced it, because if it was the federal government that declared a curfew or sit-at-home order, we know that it's the police that enforces. So if IPOB declares, is it IPOB on the streets, because this place looks empty from what we're seeing, yesterday?
Yes, it does look empty, but enforcing it, I think, like he said, both parties helped to enforce it, because the police, the federal government, on the other hand, didn't want its citizens to die, and they all came out to protect what we already are scared of. Because before now, I think there's been this situation of attacks on different police stations or police standpoints and everything. So people are a little bit scared because they really don't know what the situation will be. But I think it was from both parties, because there were threats coming from, of course, the IPOB leader calling on some particular states, most especially he spoke about Enugu, he spoke about Abia, and then Ebonyi. He said they were stubborn, and if you want to live, come out and let's see. Now, I think for that, the police also came out to kind of protect, so you don't get in between what they call it, those bullets that are not meant for you. So I think it's a mixture of both. We haven't gotten to the point where I would also want to point out that I think the southeastern governors also have a reason and a place to play in this, because they need to go back and sit down and understand what is really happening. Someone is giving out instructions, and it's making everybody panic, and also is messing up businesses, and it's messing up the economy as well. But I just hope that this is an eye opener for us, and of course the media, the federal government, and of course the state government as well. So I think it was both parties that made us stay at home.
All right, now, Jude, talking about the economy, let's look at the economic implication of this action that happened just yesterday. Now, looking at Anambra and Abia states, which are known as the commercial hub of the southeastern region, and this order meant that a lot of money was lost just yesterday. Tell us about the economic implication of the sit-at-home order.
I think it's going to be huge. People might not understand it until after maybe a week or two. But, if you're a businessman, you understand that you always have to go to work to sell, unlike people who get salaries at the end of the month. Now, shutting down an economy completely and nothing to, fall back on is really not good. Now, Southeast is, of course, known for its businesses and creating business every day. But this has affected it, most especially for yesterday. Shops were shut down, nobody opened. Fast foods, you couldn't find fast food for people who were just coming into the city. A couple of my friends flew in yesterday, but they couldn't come out of the airport and all of that. So yes, after a week, we might just get to understand what it really is to us, and what the economy problem will be in future.
All right, for Chukuma, before we go, where do we go from here? Because the whole of Nigeria watched the Southeast shut down for a day, and it wasn't a federal government declaration. There are state governors in those states who actually, didn't kick against it, but it still happened all the same. And just like you both indicated, enforced by both IPOB, perhaps nonchalantly, and effectively by the police. So where do we go from here?
I think the government needs to rejig this her strategy in terms of applying more of what we call in the military parlance, psychological operations. In a recent course I completed at the Defense Intelligence College, there is what is called psychological operation, and that should be geared towards winning the hearts of Nigerians.
Okay.
Honestly, it does appear that people in the Southeast would align more with IPOP, share more with their sentiments than even the police, because over the time, don't forget that just last year we all protested, the NSAS protest, and it was all about police brutality. So and as it is now, it has not been established anywhere where IPOB, like as IPOB, to claim for attacking people, like just come up in a place and start killing people and all the rest of it. In fact, even the unknown gunmen who we may or may not associate with IPOB, you see a situation where they could come in an area to attack, and they live like, okay, even guide people on their safety, advise them not to come out and stuff like that. So this is all about the battle of the mind, and the federal government must not lose on it. The federal government must explore every options to work first on the mind of the people, assure their confidence that they are safe. We keep having incidences of Fulani herdsmen, and it appears the government is not doing enough, so it's already a threat, and IPOB is leveraging on that to assure people a counter-narrative that with ESN, they are more secure. So government must do everything possible to win the confidence of the people. Okay. Assure them that they are safe with them, and most importantly, get the people to be part of the security architecture. With that, we can go forward.
Well, thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us on the program today. Jude Thomas Dawa, a journalist out there in Enugu, and Chukuma Kenwa, also public affairs analyst. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming on Breakfast Central.
Thanks.
Still on our top stories in Nigeria, February of 2023 is a year Nigerians will go to the poll to elect new leaders.
Now, with the myriad of challenges, there will be definitely in the electoral processes in the nation, there have been such a need to look into the 2022-2026 draft of the country's electoral umpire, which is the National Independent Electoral Commission, INEC. Now, News Central put together this report.
INEC Draft 2022 to 2026 is the reason for this third national retreat on strategic plan and strategic program of action, SPA.
There's a need to revisit that, do the needful to ensure that our communication is strengthened, to ensure that the necessary skills gaps are filled, to also identify the obstacles to effective performance of both departments at national level, state offices and local government offices. So all of that we are captured in the organizational analysis we did. And we believe that if there's anything we missed out, we should be able to fill the gaps.
With the 2023 election less than 24 months away, INEC National Commissioner representing the National Chair explains that the Commission is bracing up for the elections with the increasing challenges across the country.
The COVID-19 pandemic has introduced a new dimension to the conduct of elections in Nigeria. And apart from that, we also have this issue of inclusion, right? The marginalized groups, their inclusion in the electoral process. And that is why we are changing the first objective to include inclusivity in the electoral process. And beyond that, we have also created a new department, 2 new departments, but one of them is of interest because it is dealing with gender and inclusivity.
Only recently, the Commission announced February 2023 as the month for Nigeria's general elections. Mary Chinda reporting for News Central TV.
All right, you're still watching Breakfast Central. Now, let's take you through some of the papers, the headlines for today, June 1, 2021.
All right, 1st of June, let's start the Daily Trust in Nigeria. No time to waste for this one. So it talks about experts warn of anarchy as IPOB locks down Southeast. And also at the bottom, there are a bit of pictures for you. And it talks about abductors in the Jemgele schoolgirls behind Tegina's students kidnapped. So there you have it. Really desolate streets in the Southeast about IPOB's stay-at-home order yesterday. More on that on the front page of the Daily Trust.
From the Daily Trust, we move to the eastern part of Africa, the Standard newspaper. That's where we're going to this morning. Now, looking at the Standard, they also have information about Banaraka Day, I beg your pardon, today, talking about Uhuru Odinga big day in Kisumu City. You also have that in the Standard this morning. Ralia's message to supporters on 2022 duel. You have that also in the papers this morning. Now, Ralia's chopper crash stirs curiosity. You have this special report in the Standard newspaper for you to read this morning.
All right, let's go to South Africa with the Sowetan today, 1st of June 2021, to see what they have. Talks about under siege, heavily armed men terrorize Soweto residents as they raid underground power cables. Bits of desolate streets you can see there with a huge ditch on the road. It says they tried to bribe me days before shooting with fellow guards. So that's an incident that's gone on, and testimony from someone there. Also, racism, school hates my hair and language. So school hates my hair and language. What about racism in South Africa? More on that on page 6. And at the top there, you have chaos broke out in the Pan-African Parliament sitting yesterday, where tempers flared over the rational leadership system. Images emerge of a bit of a fracas in that parliament. So more on that on the front page of the Sowetan.
From the Sowetan paper, we move to the Citizen in Tanzania. Looking at the paper this morning, it says national appointment. It's a roller coaster ride for new criminal investigations chief. It says in page 3 of the Citizens this morning. Now, 4 sectors set to spur growth in 2021. You see here it's about 17.4 growth rate in terms of the construction activities. The different sectors in the economy, you will see all of that in the Citizens. Also, Herculean tax awaits new head of African court. It's also in the papers for you. Tanzania, Kenya earn praise after deal on trade barriers. This is on page 2 of the Citizens paper this morning.
All right, so that's coming in from Tanzania. We just looked at the one in South Africa with the Sowetan, and also in Kenya with the Standard, and also Nigeria with the Daily Trust. Well, it's the 1st of June, and it's Breakfast Central, what you're watching right now. But coming up next. Naomi Osaka withdraws from French Open in the world of tennis. She's out.
And we'll be giving you trends across Africa right here.
Kuna kallon News Central TV.
Right, then welcome back. Still Breakfast Central on a Tuesday, the first day of June 2021. Don't forget to catch us on social media at News Central TV, Instagram, Facebook, and also on YouTube to watch us live on Star Times channel 274. Now, the World Health Organization has designated 31st May, which is yesterday, as the theme of this year's Commit to Quit, which assumes significant importance in the present time of COVID-19 pandemic. And the association of smoking with the COVID-19 infection has been controversial.
Each year on May 31, member states of the World Health Organization celebrate World No Tobacco Day to draw global attention to the dangers of tobacco and the attendant preventable diseases and death. This year, the theme is Commit to Quit. The campaign is expected to help advocate for strong cessation policies, raise awareness of tobacco industry tactics, and empower tobacco users through Quit and Win initiatives. The importance of World No Tobacco Day cannot be undermined, as tobacco users are at a higher risk of contracting the COVID-19 virus.
Tobacco smoking has effect on immunity of the body generally. The immune system is lowered by tobacco smoking, and there is evidence that people with lower immunity, may have higher risk of having severe cases, having COVID-19 in the first place, or even severe cases of COVID-19. Also, because of the effect of tobacco smoking on the lungs and the respiratory system. So for those who are hospitalized for COVID-19, there is evidence that smokers tend to have more severe cases of COVID-19, and they are more likely to die from the pandemic.
Not only is tobacco a threat to users, it is also the cause of enormous respiratory diseases, particularly heart disease, hence the need to quit.
Apart from respiratory illnesses, smoking also causes heart diseases, risk for hypertension, heart failure, even heart attacks. Smoking increases the risk of strokes. Smoking increases the risk of kidney disease. We know that one of the most common causes of death mortality, even in our environment in Nigeria, includes stroke, kidney disease, and heart attack, all under the umbrella of cardiovascular diseases. So I think rather than discussing duration of smoking that will lead to these illnesses, we should talk about prevention, because addiction is a very big deal. And so many people are already smoking, and it's a lot of challenge for them to stop. And that's why I think emphasis should be on not starting at all. And that's why the campaign should go to secondary school, where they can catch them young, and people can be advised, and people must see the reasons why they must stop smoking at all.
Quitting tobacco can be difficult, but it is not impossible, and the benefits of quitting for one's health, relationships, and finances are immeasurable. Omolola Ololade, reporting for News Central.
All right, very important. We always advocate and will say no tobacco. I mean, looking at the statistics and the reports we have across the world, it says tobacco causes 8 million deaths every year. Wow. And if you look at this information we're getting in terms of tobacco-related deaths, it says that as in the 1990s, we had about 150,000 deaths, as compared to 2006, where it rose to 215,000. That's a 70% increase in the death rate.
All right, so there you have it. World No Tobacco Day. Quit.
Now let's talk business on Breakfast Central.
Right then, let's take you back to Kenya, shall we, where the country's lawmakers have announced that the country may be heading towards a default unless the government of President Uhuru Kenyatta revamps its debt. Now, the East African country's debt servicing costs are poised to surge to a record 1.17 trillion shillings. That's about $11 billion in the year starting July the 1st. Now, this is according to the report released by the Parliamentary Budget Office.
Now, calls to revamp the nation's rising debt are growing louder, even as it plans to borrow as much as $7.3 billion in the Eurobond market over the next 2 years. Now, this is prompting the International Monetary Fund to say that the country may be at risk of debt distress. We have financial analyst Tunji Andrews joining us now to discuss this.
Tunji, good morning to you. Welcome back to Breakfast Central.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right. Kenyans this morning are already celebrating Banaraka Day, but the lawmakers announced this big debt crisis. $11 billion in debt. Tunji, what's happened?
It's the same thing that is happening to every African country, where borrowing is easier than being productive. It's a big challenge, but it's not only a Kenyan issue. I think the Kenyans are a bit more open to the fact that they know that there's a crisis coming. It is one that is possibly going to hit a lot of African countries within the next 5 to 10 years.
All right, now talking about African countries, Tunji, I mean, African countries, we all keep borrowing and borrowing, debt keeps rising. How did we even get to this point? Why is it that African countries find it difficult to even be financed, to be financially stable all by itself?
Well, because to borrow is easier than to work. I mean, and Africa is a resource-rich continent. So, and it's also the problem where I think we have always been led by the worst of us. So it's a situation whereby we always have people who are the helm, who are not thinking productivity, who are just thinking, can I borrow as much money as I can borrow? When it's time to pay back, I won't be here, so I don't have to think about it. But the issue is about the servicing of the debt, because servicing starts to increase. There were points in even Nigeria where there were quarters and months where our revenue, what we used to service debt, was almost 90% of our revenue in those months. So you want to think about the long-term sustainability of increasing the debt. And every day you hear one African country has gone to borrow 2 billion, 3 billion, it's just piling up and piling up. Eventually, one day you won't be able to pay your debt and there will be a default and there will be penalties.
Well, and we just had Emmanuel Macron gather, a couple of African heads of state last week for a Paris Africa summit, basically telling them, come and take money for post-COVID-19. But Tunji, what becomes of Kenya if President Uhuru Kenyatta fails to revamp its debt? Are we looking at default here?
Yes, it's very possible. It's very, very possible. And the world is not averse to making them go into default. What a default generally means is that it doesn't mean generally that they will come and they will, carry the entire Kenya, put them in jail or anything like that. It just generally means that the people you are owing will now renegotiate and, put more penalties. That means you'll be owing more money. They can also, put embargoes on your foreign receivables. So if you're having money coming in from anywhere, maybe you sent money maybe you went to sell crude oil somewhere, they can put embargoes and take the money from source. There are many ways in which they can, go about this. But usually what happens with most countries is that the borrower or the person giving the money tends to then give you more money, at more stringent terms, so that you can be more indebted to them, so that, eventually what they wanted from you initially by giving you the first loan is made more possible. I'm speaking a lot of politics now, because those countries that give you those loans give you because they want something from you. Either they want your resource or they want you to buy goods from them. There's always a reason why people give you loans. So you defaulting just makes you more indebted to them.
Talking about hidden terms and conditions. Now, Tunji, we're still in this debt saga situation. We have a story here, still in Ethiopia. Now, where the Ethiopia Prime Minister, Abiy Ahmed, along with several high officials, they've launched the 6.7 billion Bear Adama Awash Expressway project.
Now, the construction of this 60-kilometer-long Adama Awash Expressway project is part of the Grand Djibouti Transport Corridor and will be carried out, with a budget of 6.7 billion, from Secure Development, Africa Secure Development Bank. Now, the Djibouti Transport Corridor accommodates over 90% of the nation's import-export activity. Now, Tunji, this is another borrowing we're looking at here. We know that the Zambia Kuzungala Bridge was recently commissioned. Now, what is this project all about, for Africa and its economy now?
I think Africa is wising up to the fact that it should look more into Africa. Africa doesn't do as much trade with Africa as it does with the rest of the world. And if you look at the real terms of it, we buy more from the rest of the world. We tend to do a lot of trade. So it makes more sense for Africa to trade with Africa. And I think that's what a lot of those countries are beginning to realize. Open up the corridors, make it easy passage, gain a lot of money from it, from those passageways, and increase your revenue. I think you're going to see more countries opening up those corridors. It's not the first, it's not going to be the last. And I think Nigeria should learn from this. We have a significant corridor in West Africa. So for instance, Niger has to, goods going to Niger have to come through us. Or at least it makes sense to come through us. There's a lot of conversations like that make sense that Nigeria is also a corridor. So I think more countries across that region are going to do that because of the interconnectivity that they have already. It's just to make trade easier.
All right, Tunji Andrews, financial analyst and founder of Awaba. Thank you so much again for coming on Breakfast Central, Tunji.
Thank you for having me.
All right, now don't forget you can tweet at us at News Central TV and follow us on all social media platforms. That is at News Central TV. We have Elizabeth Musa, who is right here to take us on the continent, talking about the latest trends.
All right, Africa. So of course it's the Banaraka Day in Kenya. As you know, it's a national holiday where the people are, celebrating the attainment of internal self-rule after being a British colony since 1920. Today also, Kenyans are taking stock of their wins with the hashtag Resetting Kenya, where they are taking a trip back by outlining some of the developments the country has made. Let's take a look at some of the tweets. So that's one. It says the dream of our forefathers ahead of making Kenya's East Africa's economic hub is being translated into reality after 59 years of self-struggle, and that is, before and that's after. And let's take a look at more tweets on this. And that's one. It says, who thought that resetting Kenya would bring us all to a more developed country with state-of-the-art infrastructure, roads and railways and 58 years after independence? So that's a before in 1962 up there, and that's 2021 right there with tarred roads and everything. And that's a before of the railway track, and that's currently, a very beautiful railway track you have there. So those are some of the trends going on in Kenya. That's another one. Says this is a southern bypass that we have seen how it's decongested the Mombasa Road, now Nairobi CBD and other towns. Such projects have greatly impacted our economy positively. And let's look at another tweet from Kenya in this regard. Say previously Kenya had no woman in high offices as we were viewed as inferior human beings, but today we have Martha Koome, who of course is the Chief Justice, and Philomena Ingwilu as the President and Deputy of the Judiciary respectively. Kenya is making calculated strides towards embracing women. So that's what's going on in Kenya at the moment. The hashtag is Resetting Kenya. Well, of course, Kenyans are super excited and they are happy about what's going on in the country at the moment. So it's a beautiful time for Kenya. And I just want us to move on back to Nigeria, rather, where, of course, I don't want to be a bearer of bad news, but, at the moment, Nigeria is confronted by multiple security challenges. On the one hand is the Boko Haram Islamist insurgency, and in the northeast, and militancy in the Niger Delta, increasing violence amongst farmers and herders, and the separatist agitation. Amidst all this is the increasing price of goods, the services, corruptions, and the use of force against peaceful protesters. A recent video of this controversial and popular Senator Dino Melaye is gaining eyeballs. Here's what he has to say.
President Buhari should take us back to where he picked us from. We're not asking for improvements again. We're not asking for a better Nigeria than he met it. We're not asking for any better service. Just take us back to where you picked us from. Where in 2014-15 a bag of rice was 8,000. Take us back there. Where ticket from Abuja to Lagos by air is 21,000 and business class was 40,000. Take us back there. Where with 50 naira you can go to Meshai and take Indomie and egg. Take us back there. Where a loaf of bread is 120 naira. Take us back there. We don't want improvement. We don't want, just take us back to where you took us from. The spirit of error is in the air. We need to pray. God bless Nigeria.
So there you have it. It says the spirit of error is in the air and we need to pray. I don't know about that, but what do you guys make of this video? That's a senator, and that's a popular, controversial senator. Of course, we know that senators earn about 71 million per annum. So is it speaking for the masses or something? Like, what do you guys make of this video? It says Buhari should take us back to where we were before. It's not even asking for change.
It's Dino Melaye, so when he posts on social media, he does tend to gather a lot of, traction. Because he has got a couple of salient points. But then again, he is part of a system. Many might look at it like, okay, we're pointing fingers at Buhari. The case of kettle and pots, basically, and that's
Ooh, okay. All right, Elizabeth, thank you so much for giving us the latest across the continent, Africa.
My pleasure.
All right, still to come right here on Breakfast Central. Naomi Osaka withdraws from the French Open. We'll tell you all about it. All right, you're still watching Breakfast Central. Just before we go, some updates in the world of sports. Now, we started the second Grand Slam of the year, which is the French Open. And big blow now for world number 2 from Japan, Naomi Osaka. Now, she's withdrawn from the French Open amidst controversy of not, being willing to do press conferences after matches. Now, she had her first match on Sunday. She won the game. She refused to do the press conference. She got fined £12,000. And she was threatened that, by the organizer that if she continues, she will be thrown out, expelled from the tournament. But she's gone on to withdraw and gone to social media to post that she doesn't want to be a distraction. She also cited suffering bouts of depression since her win against Serena Williams in 2018, her first Grand Slam title back in the US Open. So that is the big blow. There will be lots of reactions throughout today concerning this one because mental health is quite a big deal. The organizers have been criticized that if she cited reasons for mental health, why give her much slack? And now that the world number 2 and one of the highest earning female athletes in the world has put out of the French Open, where do they go from here? There are also reactions from the likes of Serena Williams, Roger Federer, and Novak Djokovic about press conferences. Is this all about duty or not? All right, let's talk about Sergio Aguero, the striker from Argentina. Well, you can see him now. He's a Barca player. After losing with Man City against Chelsea at the weekend, he's gone straight to Barcelona, and he says it's the best club in the world. All right, so Sergio Aguero, we don't know the number he'll be wearing, but clearly he looks like a happy man. New beginning. He's 32, turning 33. So the 2-year deal for Barcelona. Good luck to Sergio Aguero. There'll be more on that later on in the world of sports.
All right, there you have it for sports. But before we go, let's tell you that there are beautiful programs for you to watch much later today on News Central TV.
Business Edge comes at 11 a.m. West African time.
And at 12 p.m. West African time, we have NC News Now.
All right, gather up, gather up, gather up. Village Square Africa at 7 p.m. West African time. You don't want to miss it. Right then, that wraps it up for the package today. The 1st of June 2021 is a Tuesday.
And it is Banaraka Day in Kenya. I know the activities are up there. I mean, the president of Kenya is also there, as well as major international and national dignitaries are all in the major stadium in Kisumu Dala region of Kenya. We will be joining them as well throughout the day on Breakfast Central and News Central TV. All
right, so follow us on the news at the top of the hour. We'll give you the latest when it comes to that, especially this rising death crisis in Kenya. Until then, have yourselves a wonderful day and a wonderful week.
Adama.